Good afternoon and welcome to Living Local. I'm Michaela Hughes Shaw.
And I'm Brandy Otterson. Thank you for joining us and welcome to this special edition of Living Local until we meet again. So today we are devoting an entire half hour to talk about something incredibly difficult. That topic is death.
Now, most of us have lost someone dear to us during the course of our lives, and maybe even in the past couple of years, someone that you loved has died unexpectedly due to COVID-19.
And while we know that death is a part of life, so many of us are just unprepared for it and what comes next. So planning a funeral as you grieve just adds another new layer to that disbelief and stress of losing someone.
And so today we are going to talk about how being prepared can actually be a lifesaver when it comes to the ones that you leave behind. And we're also showing you some simpler ways to say goodbye and also still honoring your loved ones.
So two premier QCA funeral homes are coming together to help families when they need it most.
And so joining us here in studio today to share just some details. We have so much that we're going to cover today, but joining us here we have Earl Wendt from the Wendt Funeral Home, and then we also have Jeff DeRue from DeRue Funeral Home. Thank you both so much for taking time to share your expertise with us today.
Thanks for the opportunity.
So let's start with you, Earl. Tell us just how you got started in this area.
Well, my family got started right after the Civil War up in the Port Byron area. We started in 1866, and it's just been a family business since. We are the oldest family funeral home in Rock Island County and in this area, and we probably rank among the top in the nations as far as continuously family owned through the duration of the funeral home.
Wow.
That's a very long time.
Yeah,
So,
impressive.
So yeah, we still have horse-drawn hearses and things like that at our facility that we have on display.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Things have changed so much. And we're going to cover so much of that today too. But you know, DeRue also just has such a rich history as well in the QCA. And so tell us how it all began for you.
Well, our funeral home was started in the 30s. My grandfather moved from a farm in Atkinson and started the funeral home. We've built onto it over the years and have had other family members living there over the years, but 1936 is actually when we started, and you know, we've been in the community since '36 at the same location.
Yeah, so really a family affair for both of you, right?
Oh yes.
Yeah, definitely.
It's much a family affair. I've had my son working. I've had 3 sisters working at the funeral home before, so when you need all hands on deck, the family's there to be behind you.
Yeah, you need someone to fill in. It seems like you have someone, right?
Well, that's important. And really after working separately, I should say, for decades, you two are coming together now to really offer some services for people here in the QCA. So can you tell us more about that and that partnership too?
Well, what we've done is we've partnered up to help people with I should say financial needs, because a lot of times, you know, funerals have gotten expensive through the years. And the partnership was the two of us came together and we offered an online, which is sort of new to the area, and we're we're sort of demonstrating how things can be done easier without people having to come to the funeral home, sit down with us and go through all the paperwork there. Sometimes people like to just sit at their house and get on their computer and handle things that way. And everybody handles death a little differently.
Yeah,
And we
definitely.
are trying to use technology to help the families if they need that. There are plenty of resources and forms that we have on the website to help with that technology and make things easier for the families.
For sure, it definitely sounds like that. So we've just scratched the surface here.
Up next, the changing funeral industry, what people want now, and how Wendt and DeRue and Mississippi Valley Cremation and Direct Burial are all able to accommodate.
So you're watching Living Locals until we meet again.
Welcome back to our Living Local special, Until We Meet Again. Now, for generations, funeral homes have operated with pretty much the same set of services, but changing times means that changes within the industry are happening, which opens up many possibilities for families when it comes to planning their loved ones' services. And so we are back again with Earl Wendt and Jeff DeRue. They're going to share, once again, their expertise. So a few minutes ago, though, we talked about how the both of you have been in the industry for a very long time. What changes, or maybe what's the biggest change that you've seen? And is that a hard question to answer? Because I'm sure there's been so many.
There's been a lot of changes. I started back in the funeral business in 1977. And back then, cremation was very rare. It was 2% or whatever it was, but now we're up to pushing 60% or better here in Rock Island County. So that has changed the amount of what's happening at the cemeteries and cremations, what people do. The other thing is really too has to do with is the mobility of our society nowadays, because you have somebody living in Florida, you have somebody living in California, and then a baby sister, she's up in New York. So it takes a little while for everybody to get back together to plan things. And with that being said, with our mobile society, people tend to choose cremation a little bit more. It's something that is very acceptable that probably wasn't acceptable years ago. When I started, visitation was 3 to 5, 7 to 9. Did you want your funeral at 10 or 10:30 the next morning? Now everything's all over the board. It's whatever you want to do, we'll get it done on how you want it done.
Cremation's been around for thousands of years. I think people maybe forget that or don't know that, but it's not anything new, but it may be a little bit newer to the United States. As Earl just mentioned, the cremation rate, it has gone up over the years and continues to rise.
And it's also, in a way, changing the way and the options that people have when it comes to actually saying goodbye. Is there anything unique that you feel like has maybe come out of just this most recent time that we've had?
There were people during the pandemic that were not able to have services because of restrictions. And when it comes time to any funeral arrangements, traditional burials or cremations, it's a very personal decision. But I think that did force some people's hands to kind of reevaluate what was important to them in end-of-life arrangements and what was important to their family to help their family.
Absolutely.
And one of the big things with the pandemic that also changed was the live streaming. I mean, a lot of funeral homes did not offer that service before. Now everybody offers the live streaming.
It's kind of speaking to just that continuous change and the adapting that you all have had to do. And honestly, when you think about just this topic as a whole, where do you see things shifting towards? What would you say?
I think that there's an expectation now from funeral directors to offer families more flexibility in what's important to them and what they need from a funeral home or any funeral service provider. People's needs are different. So I think we have to be listening, and we have to be aware of what families are asking us to do. And it's, as I mentioned before, it's a very personal choice when it comes to the finer details.
And, I think this is just something that people maybe don't talk about until they need to talk about it. So I'm happy that we are able to sit here and have this discussion about how things are changing.
Like I said, I've seen all kinds of changes through the years. You don't see people, everybody grieves differently, okay? And with the change with our society, it's just incredible the amount of people that want different things now. I mean, before, like I said, it was just so regimented, it was at the church or at the funeral home, and now we have a request. I mean, we're very pet friendly. You have animals in the funeral homes, you have celebrations of life, you have different aspects where people do different things to actually celebrate a person's life versus sometimes than just, grieve. But then there's also the part of it where a person's lived to be 95 years old and had a great life, and they celebrate that life. And, unfortunately, there are times when younger people lose their lives, and those lives are cut short and very tragic. But there's times that people really celebrate, and then there's times that people grieve a lot more.
Definitely.
And it's what they may need. Celebration could be what that family needs in order to move on and to come together as a family and start healing. So again, it's a very subjective thing, and that's where we need to be focused on what the family's really expecting from us.
Definitely. Consistently changing requests and just continuing to adapt. Well, thank you both so much. There's still so much more to cover here too. So next, how the changing industry actually led Went and Drew to offering a simpler way to honor loved ones. That's next here on Living Locals until we meet again.
Welcome back to our Living Local special, Until We Meet Again. The National Directors Funeral Association reports the average cost of a funeral rose to nearly $8,000 last year. That's a 6.5% increase from 2016. Now that amount may sound staggering to some, and that's why Went and Drew Funeral Homes are highlighting an option that offers more affordability while also giving families a peace of mind. Well, Earl Went and Jeff DeRue are back to talk a little bit more about the simpler way families can say goodbye. So earlier we briefly touched on how you guys came together with Mississippi Valley Cremation and Direct Burial. Why did you see the need to come together to form this team?
The Went and DeRue families have known each other for decades. Went Funeral Home had an ambulance service back in the day. DeRue Funeral Home had an ambulance service back in the day. And the funeral homes, you get to know the different funeral homes, different funeral directors, but our families have known each other for a long time. And in my conversations with Earl, we kept hearing the same thing from families over and over again, and that for certain families, they didn't want to complicate anything with their desire to have a direct cremation. So that began our talks of how do we find a simple, innovative way to help families that they want a direct cremation. We felt like we had something to offer the Quad Cities and surrounding communities.
Yeah.
Something that really, with what we're trying to do, with being innovative in the funeral industry, we don't see around here yet.
Yeah, so Earl, why don't you talk to us a little bit about what those options are for cremation?
Okay, cremation, when people call up, they'll say, what is a cremation, or how does a cremation work, or anything else like that. I always tell them, okay, there's really 3 types of cremations. One is a person passes away, we pick them up at the hospital, wherever they pass away, home, bring them back to our facility, file the paperwork, do the cremation, hand you back your cremated remains, and you go about your way to do your business. The other way is a cremation with a celebration of life. And what that is whether it's at one of our 2 facilities or at a park, at a rental hall someplace, anything else like that. So what we do is do the cremation, and we help you with the obituary and get you all set and going, and then you can have your celebration of life wherever you would like. And the third one is a cremation with a rental casket. A lot of people don't know you can do that, which is really nice because your friends and family can all come in and have your final closure, and then there's an insert that goes in the casket. The person is cremated in that insert, and it's less expensive, and that way you can have your traditional full funeral and then a cremation afterwards. And we do supply that at either one of that type of service at either one of our facilities, but with the Mississippi Valley Cremation, we're more in lines of the first 2.
Okay, so you did mention the last one was a little more cost effective. What is the cost difference between cremation and traditional burial?
Depending on where you look for the statistics, you'll find the numbers are a little bit different. Now, nationally, I think the average right now for a traditional funeral is about $8,800.
Wow.
Having a viewing with the visitation and possibly a church service or funeral home service, followed by cremation, is more around $6,600 for the median. And I believe in Iowa, the median price for a direct cremation is $3,100.
Okay. Well, it's nice to have all those options for folks, for sure. So for those who don't want to be cremated, you also offer what's called direct burial. How does that work?
Okay, a direct burial is like it says, a direct burial. We pick the person up from where they passed away, bring them back to our facility, meet with the family, whatever it takes, put the person in the casket, then we take them out to the cemetery for a burial. And usually, sometimes the family's there or not there. And yes, you can have a service even with a direct burial. The thing to do is just have a graveside service. It's real simple. We just have the casket at the cemetery with or without a tent and chairs, however you'd like to do it, because every cemetery is a little different. We're very fortunate that we have National Cemetery this close to us. So with them, we just go to the center pavilion area. The minister does the service there, and then you're done. But you can still have a service with a direct burial, most certainly.
Okay, well, that's good to know. And again, so many options. I don't think a lot of folks realize that, you know, it's not just one option for cremation.
You're absolutely right. We would like people to know their options, and unfortunately, I don't think everyone does.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Earl and Jeff, if you don't mind sticking around, we still have a lot more to talk about. And next on our Living Local special, Until We Meet Again, Aftercare, how Went and DeRue are there for you after you've said your goodbyes, and what you can do right now to make things easier for your loved ones.
Welcome back to our Living Local special, Until We Meet Again. There's so much that goes into planning a funeral for the loved one that you've lost, and there's also so much more to do after the funeral is over. So Went and DeRue Funeral Homes are working to support families really every step of the way. So we're back again with Earl and Jeff, and they're going to share some more about that. Thanks again for just sharing your expertise with us today.
Thank you.
Of course. So the stress, really, there's so much stress that can be associated with losing a loved one. In what ways do you believe that, you know, how do you actually help people, I should say, after that final goodbye is said?
You're absolutely right. It's an extremely emotional time. And a lot of the grieving will not, it won't start right away until people have a chance to kind of let the dust settle. So we have a timeline of multiple calls that go out to families, text messages, and we're available to reach on social media as well. We answer all calls as quickly as we can get to them, but we've told families that we'd like to be a resource and have them contact us with any follow-up questions, any other concerns they might have.
And another piece of that is really just settling maybe business accounts or other personal details, estate, different things like that. So what advice do you have to folks who are really just dealing with all of those?
Well, it just depends on the estate. So I tell people the best thing is to see an attorney, okay? I just settled my father's estate. It's a part-time job almost.
Oh, wow.
So
I can only imagine.
It's just constant, okay? It'll be constant for you. It will be overwhelming. It'll be stressful. But you will get through it. It just takes time. And I tell people, I said, just go slow. Make sure you're making your right decisions. You know, contact the right people. There's so much more to do nowadays out there. You know, cars, houses, bank accounts, computers and passwords. I mean, all that stuff needs to be written down and taken care of ahead of time. And it's easy to say, but sometimes it's a little harder to do. But it really helps out your family in the long run by going ahead and taking care of some of these things.
Helping people through this process. That's just so important there. And really, this can be a stressful time for people as they are navigating all of these different changes. How can you help people make those arrangements right now? Really, what all goes into that?
Well, everything's available online. So what we've done, we're allowing everyone, if they want, to access the website, and you can have an insurance policy generated online and going through a life insurance company through our website. You can have arrangements in about 20 to 30 minutes.
Oh, wow. That's so quick. That is so quick. And really the financial piece of that, on top of the emotions and all of that, that can all be stressful. How can you help people there? The
financial part of it, we have the two packages now for the direct cremation and direct burial, and our direct cremation price is $965. And it's a little bit lower for veterans. It's $875 for veterans. So we know that it can be a financial burden for some families. So hopefully that will help with what some people are looking for.
Another question that people might have, should you involve your family on decisions if you have been appointed to be the person to make those decisions?
Oh yes, most definitely. You know, you should involve your family, and you know, this is a family decision because your kids are going to be grieving over your loss. So there's no doubt that you know, your family really should be involved in it. And the only thing that people have to remember is you can come in and plan it all out, but your family can still come in and change it. It's important to go ahead and get this conveyed to your family on what you want done, and hopefully they'll follow your wishes right on through. With that being said, there's also two types of prearrangements, paid and unpaid, meaning you can always come in and take care of everything and not pay for it. And that's just, I tell people that's really a big thing, is just be able to get things written down so your family knows what you want.
Absolutely.
And that is offered with Mississippi Valley Cremation. There's no requirement to pay for anything, but you can get on the website and have your wishes recorded and enter some information in there that we could just have on file.
Okay, awesome. All such good advice here as people maybe have to move forward with these processes. So thank you both so much again.
Thank you.
Now stay with us. More Living Local continues after the break. Welcome back to our Living Local special, Until We Meet Again.
Well, we covered a lot of topics with Went and DeRue Funeral Homes, giving us plenty to think about.
Yes, so much. And the takeaway from this, hopefully, is just start that conversation with your loved ones about what your wishes are. It's so important. And if you can plan for it right now, because, you know, you just never know if tomorrow is guaranteed.
That's for sure. So if you need help getting started, you can reach out to Went Funeral Home at 309-764-6781 or online at wentfuneralhome.com.
And you can also reach the folks at DeRue Funeral Home at 309-762-5735 and online at DeRueFuneralHome.com.
And if you want to reach out to Mississippi Valley Cremation and Direct Burial, their number is 309-798-9798, and their website is mvcremation.com. And we'll also have all those details posted on ourquadcities.com.
Yes, we will. Now, thank you so much again for joining us today for this special edition of Living Local.
And we'll see you back here tomorrow at noon.